On June 30th, my sister decided to make the only correct choices in episode 1 of season 1 of The Walking Dead games.
This is 18-year-old Nicholas Prosper with a harrowing message for his sister.
And for that, her face will be plated further than necessary. I also recall a video by Living Echoes on YouTube. Best of Lee and Clementine, Definitive Edition. It was a compilation. And he decided to kill Larry in front of Clementine. And then I later learned he decided to kill the St. John's in front of Clementine.
He's expressing his dissatisfaction with the fact that she and a gaming YouTuber had made the wrong decisions while playing the Walking Dead video game. They decided that they'd kill characters in front of another, a child, Clementine. Although his words may appear light-hearted, a bit of banter with a sibling, they're anything but. He's deadly serious. Her choice to approach the game in the manner she did would play a role in what was about to unfold just hours later. However, it was just that, a small decision in Nicholas's broader disturbing plan, one where he aimed to copy his idol, Sandy Hook Elementary School shooter, Adam Lanza.
Hello police, what's the emergency?
Hiya, yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit rattled. Upstairs, just gone up to knock on the door, sorry. And I heard a massive bang, sounded like a gunshot.
In the early hours of September 13th, 2024, the Bedfordshire Police were called to the Lee Bank Tower block in Luton, England, after receiving reports about a disturbance and potential gunshots being fired in a flat. Resident Claire Rees heard loud noises coming from flat 82 at around 5:30 AM, so she went to knock the door to tell them to quieten down. But as she did, the sounds from the flat became clearer. Someone was being attacked. She proceeded to knock the door either way, but was ignored. Then out of nowhere, gunshots. So she ran back to her flat and called police. Dispatch were told that the Prosper family lived there. 48-year-old Juliana and her 3 teens, 13-year-old Giselle, 16-year-old Kyle, and 18-year-old Nicholas. Responding officers didn't entirely know what they were in for, but the fact that reports of shots fired could be heard coming from a flat, it meant that something serious may have just occurred. What officers found out when they forced entry just under an hour after they were called was something straight out of a horror film. Giselle, Kyle, and Juliana were spread around the flat. There were bloodstains throughout, including blooded handprints all over the walls. Several knives were also found. One was bent out of shape. However, there was something, or rather someone, that was missing. Nicholas. The Prospers came as a family unit of 6. Juliana, the 3 teens, an older son who hasn't been named in reports, and their father Ray. By late 2024, only Juliana and the teens were living with each other. She and Ray had split. It's unclear why that was though. All we do know is that when Nicholas got into arguments with Juliana, he blamed her for his father not being around. Growing up, the children were said to have been fairly normal. Giselle was a happy, fun-loving teen with a passion for dancing. Kyle was outgoing, popular at school, and was into sports. And Nicholas, well, he was described by those who knew him as geeky, with a small friend group. He was on the quieter side. He tended to keep to himself, he preferred it that way. A nurse later assessed him as having autistic spectrum disorder traits, but he's never officially been diagnosed. When COVID lockdowns hit in 2020, he would have been around 14 at that time. He completely shut off from everyone, kept conversations brief with family, friends and neighbours, and locked himself in his bedroom. It was there he started to search for morbid topics on his computer, including mass murder, cartel gang conflicts, wars, school shootings, and also visited websites. It isn't believed that Juliana knew what he was up to when he was locked away, but she, along with his father, did try to get help for the social isolation from the school and his doctor, but Nicholas refused to engage with either of them, so it went no further. By March 2023, Nicholas had dropped out of college as his attention became consumed by the online content he was watching. Rather than focusing on his A-levels, he spent time obsessing over school shooters and mass killers. Within 6 months, that obsession turned into something he wanted to partake in. Yes, he wanted to become the UK's next school shooter. Bear in mind, the UK hasn't had a school shooting since 1996. Even worse, he wanted to take as many lives as he could and become the world's deadliest school shooter. It was around this time where he also became infatuated with a character from Telltale's The Walking Dead video game. The game follows Lee Everett, a convicted criminal who becomes the guardian of a young girl named Clementine during a zombie apocalypse. In the game, you can make various choices. One of those is to kill characters in front of Clementine. And well, let's just put it this way, Nicholas hated it when people did that. He was protective over Clementine and even believed that he was in a relationship with her. If you thought that was sickening, then you haven't heard anything yet. At some point in 2024, Nicholas managed to get banned from one particular site that he used to frequent. The reason for the ban? Well, he would go on rants showing his support for child-adult interactions and arguing that it was okay to sleep with corpses. And that wasn't just a one-off, he would rant about it multiple times a day over a lengthy period. These comments weren't in jest or a careless attempt to play devil's advocate, he really meant what he was saying. So yeah, he got banned.
This video is in reply to the 10th man on Watch People. The context of this is that I've been banned for basically means I'm banning you because I don't like you, I guess. Considering I've broken no rule and no one is willing to explain how I've broken any rule. I've tried to reason with these people. What I've done is I've made a slew of messages combating misinformation and comments based on empirical findings and comments made purely for academic purposes in spreading knowledge and understanding on this topic.
As previously mentioned, by the summer of 2023, Nicholas Prosper hatched a plan to become the world's deadliest school shooter and wanted to use Adam Lanza's blueprint to do so. His plan? Kill his family in their sleep within 30 seconds and remain at home until around 8:30 AM. Then head over to his old primary school, St. Joseph's, pretend he was robbing the place, then murder teachers and children, more specifically 4 and 5-year-olds. His goal? A minimum of 34 deaths. That way he'd be the deadliest school shooter to ever exist, pushing Virginia Tech shooter Sung-Hye Cho down into second place. He'd then take his own life. In September of 2023, the initial stages of the plan were implemented. Nicholas posed as a parent who had recently moved to the Luton area. That way he could obtain information about daily timetables and movements of specific children at St. Joseph's. Shortly afterwards, he carried out reconnaissance at the school. He then needed to get his hands on a gun, but there was an issue. He lived in a country with some of the strictest gun laws in the world. So, if he wanted one, he'd first need to go through vigorous background checks. That way he could get a license, which would allow him to legally own a gun. But he didn't want to do that, and instead decided to rob a gun owner during a private transaction. But for reasons unknown, he eventually abandoned the plan. Following the unsuccessful robbery attempt, things went quiet for just under a year, although it should be noted that Nicholas was still researching morbid topics including school shootings. Then, in June of 2024, the plan continued when Nicholas had the bright idea of forging a firearms license. On September 12th, Nicholas managed to successfully purchase a 12-bore Nico double-barreled shotgun with 100 cartridges for £600. And if you're wondering why he left it until September to make the purchase, well, the next day was Friday the 13th, and that was the day he wanted to carry out the shooting. Shortly after purchasing the gun, Nicholas recorded the video threatening his sister. However, it wouldn't be uploaded until 6 AM the next day. Nicholas's plan to become the world's deadliest school shooter was about to happen in just a few short hours. But before he started, he'd research more morbid topics, with crime scene photos of the Columbine mass shooting being the last thing he saw. At around 5 AM, it began. Now, Nicholas had never shot a gun before, so he needed to practice and also make sure that the gun was working so everything would run smoothly. It was this practice which ultimately led to the wider plot foiling. Believe it or not, in the early hours, Nicholas decided to shoot a teddy bear that was in his room. The shots ultimately woke Juliana. She confronted him about it and a struggle ensued. He would end up getting the better of her and she was shot in the head at close range. He then placed the novel How to Kill Your Family on her legs. Nicholas then made his way to Giselle's room. As he walked in, he fired towards her, but she was putting her glasses on because she heard the noise, so the pellet breezed by her head. She soon realized what had just happened and had a small window to escape, to which she did. However, in a panic, ran to the living room to hide. Sadly, she'd be shot in the face at point blank range once she was found, just like Nicholas said he would. By now, Kyle knew that his older brother was armed and had taken the lives of his mother and sister, so he ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife to try and protect himself. However, he brought a knife to a gunfight. It was an unequal contest. When Nicholas laid eyes on Kyle, he shot him from across the room. Kyle was hit in the chest, but was still alive. In a desperate bid to escape, he staggered into the hallway, but collapsed. Nicholas eventually caught up to him and proceeded to stab and slash him over 100 times. Kyle reportedly begged him to stop, but he didn't. Instead, he finished him off by shooting him in the head. Nicholas would flee from the Lee Bank Tower block at around 5:33 AM. Police would arrive around 20 to 30 minutes later. There was an issue though. His plan couldn't be executed until 9 AM, so he hid in a nearby wooded area. As time passed, he noticed that police activity had grew and assumed that they figured out his school shooting plot. That meant then that they would have locked all the schools down. With that in mind, at around 7:55 AM, Nicholas decided to leave his hiding spot and surrendered. Believe it or not, the Bedfordshire Police didn't know anything about the school shooting plot. They eventually found out 4 days later. Thankfully, Nicholas didn't realise.
Okay, you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned. Something later on in court. Anything you do say may be given as evidence. What road are we on? Birmingham Road. 426, priority. Birmingham Road, I think we've got the offender.
It's not murder.
Yes, we've got a male here. He's presented himself to us. Can we just get another unit down here, please?
So, as I explained, you've been arrested on suspicion of the murder of Juliana Falcon, who's your mum, Giselle Prosper, who's your sister, Kyle Prosper, who's your brother, earlier on today. You've also been arrested on suspicion of possession of a firearm and possession of a bladed article, okay? The reason that you're suspected of that is because you presented yourself to the police, you had a knife on you and you showed them where a gun was, so that's why we're going to question you about that. Nicholas, we've explained what you've been arrested on suspicion of, okay, and what you said after. We'd like you to tell us about any involvement that you have had with the deaths of Juliana Falcon, Kyle Prosper and Giselle Prosper. We'd like to tell you about any involvement that you've had with them at all in their murders.
No comments.
Did you kill them?
No comments.
Obviously, it's a fact that, they're dead now. Okay, so that's why we're here talking about it. Are you aware of that?
No comments.
Okay. I'm going to go through some various topics of conversation. Obviously, I've never met you before, so we usually start. Because you've got no comment, I'm going to carry on with my own topics, okay? Giving you the chance to talk about any involvement you've had. Because I've never met you before, I'd like to know a bit about your background. I know your name is Nicholas and you're 18. But that's about it, really. Do you want to tell me about your background?
No comments.
About where you live?
No comments.
Tell me about your family?
No comments.
Tell me about any friends you have?
No comments.
Tell me, do you work?
No comments.
Or are you in any kind of education?
No comments.
How do you support yourself financially?
No comments.
Do you get any kind of benefits?
No comments.
Or do your parents give you money?
No comments.
Do you see both of your parents?
No comments.
How do you get about?
No comments.
Have you got a car?
No comments.
Or any kind of scooter?
No comments.
Or a bicycle?
No comments.
Do you get public transport?
No comments.
What phone have you got?
No comments.
Do you have your own phone?
No comments.
Or do you borrow someone else's?
No comments.
Who pays for your phone?
No comments.
Where is your phone?
No comments.
What kind of phone is it?
No comments.
Is it a smartphone?
No comments.
Do you use social media?
No comments.
What platforms do you use on social media if you do?
No comments.
Do you post anything?
No comments.
Or do you just read other people's posts?
No comments.
Have you got any mental health issues?
No comments.
Do you receive any treatment for any mental health issues?
No comments.
Have you been diagnosed with any neurodiversity or mental health issues?
No comments.
Or do you think you've got any mental health issues but they've been undiagnosed?
No comments.
What are your hobbies?
No comments.
What do you do with your spare time?
No comments.
Are you religious?
No comments.
Do you take part in any kind of religion?
No comments.
Or do you just believe in a religion?
No comments.
Do you want to ask anything about his background?
Family, Nicholas. Jin initially, when she's introduced what you've been arrested for, is referred to your sister, your brother and your mother. Have we got that right?
No comments.
With those names that she's given you and those relationships?
No comments.
How many phones do you have?
No comments.
Are they pin locked?
No comments.
What are your pins?
No comments.
And tell us about your friends.
No comments.
Do you have any close friends?
No comments.
Or any acquaintances?
No comments.
Just let me finish the question. I know you might want to no comment, that's fine, but just let us finish the questions, okay? Do you have any colleagues that you're in contact with?
No comments.
Do you have anyone that you talk to on a regular basis outside of family?
No comments.
Anyone you speak to online?
No comments.
Right, so Jin has talked about any mental health issues or any treatment for any mental health issues. Have you ever, in the last few days, have you ever called anyone with regards to your mental health?
No comment.
Have you ever alerted anyone in the last few days for assistance with any physical health conditions?
No comments.
Did you kill them?
No comments.
Police got called there to a disturbance and found your mum, brother and sister dead. Explain to me what happened.
No comments.
Did you kill your mum, brother and sister?
No comments.
Is it your shotgun?
No comments.
Is that the shotgun that was used to kill your mum and your brother and sister?
No comments.
I mean, I can confirm that this knife was taken from you by police officers, okay?
No comments.
Why did you have that knife in your pocket?
No comments.
It's obviously covered in blood. Whose blood is that?
No comments.
Have you stabbed someone with that knife?
No comments.
When police got there and found your mum, your brother and your sister, on your mum, or right next to her, is a book called How to Kill Your Family. Have you ever seen a book with a cover like that at your home address?
No comments.
Did it belong to you?
No comments.
Or did it belong to someone else living there?
No comments.
Have you ever touched that book? Because it was found right next to your mum.
No comments.
Was it just a coincidence that your mum fell where that book was?
No comments.
Have you read that book?
No comment.
Book with that title was right next to your mum. Has it got any significance?
No comment.
Have you been planning how to kill your family?
No comment.
Did you get any tips from that book?
No comment.
So you can see why we're talking to you. You've got 3 members of your family dead at your flat, and you've shown us where the shotgun is. And we've got someone saying that you've bought the shotgun. Is there anything that you want to explain about any of that?
No comment.
Because this is the point of an interview, is your chance to tell us if you do want to say anything.
No comment.
And remember what I said to you about the caution, that if later on in court you want to say something, they may not believe you.
No comment.
Okay.
On September 17th, 2024, Nicholas Prosper told a prison nurse about the school shooting plan, and it was at that point the police realised how much deadlier this event could have been. As you've just seen, throughout his initial interview, he gave a no-comment response. However, his confession to the nurse, 2 notes that were found on him during a search of his cell after his confession, where he wrote down the plan in detail, and the pile of evidence that was already stacked up against him, was enough to charge Nicholas in relation to the murders, the purchase of the firearm, and the school shooting plot. In the end, he would plead guilty, and in return for that, the school shooting charges weren't brought forward. He was handed a life sentence with a minimum term of 49 years. So, a lot of you would have heard about this case from a little while back. A few content creators covered it and approached it from the angle of Nicholas killing his family over the Walking Dead video game. But as you now know, it was actually over him trying to copy his idol, Adam Lanza. Oh, trust me, he was literally obsessed with him. If you have a look online, you'll see exactly what I mean. The thing is, we can't really blame the content creators for how they approached it though. That's just how it goes sometimes in the United Kingdom. In cases like this, limited information is released. Normally you'll see a tabloid newspaper pay for some inside information, but even then we may not get the full story until a conviction. There are so many what ifs in this case. What if he wasn't so obsessed with Adam Lanza? What if his mum didn't wake up? What if he didn't think that police locked down the schools? Well, in all of those cases, small children, yes, 4 and 5-year-olds would have been murdered, and this story would have been a hell of a lot different. Again, his obsession with Adam Lanza meant he had to kill his family at home first, because that's what Adam did. What I also find very interesting is the fact that in no report is the Aurora cinema shooting mentioned. But would you believe me if I told you that the way Nicholas was thinking was the same way as James Holmes was? For those of you who don't know, that's the Aurora cinema shooter. James Holmes actually thought the FBI were going to arrest him on the way to the cinema. He thought his plan was about to be stopped, but he was wrong, just like Nicholas. Nicholas really did believe that the police knew about his plan. Again, thankfully, he was wrong. If you're interested in learning more about both the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting and the Aurora cinema shooting, I've done lengthy deep dives into both of those cases. Granted, the commentary isn't as good as it is nowadays, so just bear that in mind because both were a few years ago, but they're both packed with information, so be sure to give them a watch. I'll leave links to both of those videos in the pinned comment of this video.